Hey everybody, it's FMPONE here today to look at CS Wild by T-Chick, B-Man, Art Verena, and Laszlo. So the first thing I see when I spawn into this level is some really satisfying rocks. I like rocks. I like rocks that look like this. I like a cactus. I like an aloe vera plant. All of this stuff is right up my alley, for sure. Digging the theme of this map. Kind of a canyon feel. I think I might have gotten caught on something here, but that's part of hiking, right? Gets a little rough out there. Like the little Cessna in the background there. Maybe this nice plain detail is being obscured by this sort of boring van. We could probably reallocate that. Draw a nice focus to that really cool plain detail. One thing I don't particularly like right off the bat is the way that this red rock is kind of transitioning to kind of this ugly, looks like a big pile of coal, and then we're kind of getting like a fade out into white in the background. Really what it should be is just progressively lighter shades of this red. So like red, a little bit lighter red, quite light red, and that'll either explicitly be from fog or be imitating fog. It's a really bad idea to have something in the background be darker than something in the foreground, because that's just not how atmospheric kind of effects work to create a sense of depth in a picture. Unless you're intentionally trying to violate that concept because you're like, a master painter or something, but I'm not buying it here. So I feel like these are photo scanned assets because they have that nice kind of 360-degree detail, which is very hard to achieve. I like this giant piece of wood as well. So I really like some of the assets kind of in and of themselves, but I don't know about having these bollards in this kind of an environment. It seems a little bit ill-fitting. This doesn't really fit, does it, with the whole natural theme? So, but I really like the natural theme. I really like the way this looks. I love this kind of dusty canyon. I would try to achieve that across the board. So yeah, it seems like this map is basically composed of like this nice red rock and then this kind of putrefied, decaying looking rock, which I really don't find to be aesthetically pleasing. I like the hardness and the shape variety, but I don't really like the color or really lack thereof. And you can see this juxtaposition is happening in real time right here. I just do not like the way this looks. And I really don't like that this entire canyon is comprised of that sort of darker stone. I think it's really quite ugly compared to this nice saturated orange tone. So I would immediately, if I was working on this project, I would immediately switch that out and make the entire map that very pleasing orange. Especially over here as well in the skybox, you can see the lack of saturation is really making things not too pleasant to look at. I notice as well down here that we've got kind of a plastic looking normal map that's kind of marring this actually quite nice skybox. So here we have our hostage. We want to make sure the CTs don't get a hold of him. This this little puddle pond is not looking too bad, but I do wish that there was a little bit more of a smooth edge. I mean, you will definitely see hard angles like this in real life, in nature, but you won't really see a perfect kind of octagonal, whatever the right way to pronounce that word is, kind of shape like that. If you did, it would be quite rare. I also see a lot of other kind of flat, hard edges, and yeah, that's just not very naturalistic compared to a nice kind of three-dimensional shape like this. So I think I would want to see more of that kind of three-dimensionality, you know, creating a natural archway here, creating a little bit more of a natural shape there. So I can say immediately that I find this transition between this kind of natural space and this concrete material to be, it feels quite unnatural, I would say. I like that. I really like when maps do this in Source 2. I think, you know, it's just one of those things that really separates this engine from the prior engine, and it tends to be pretty fun in practice as well. Some of those shapes can be a little chaotic in terms of the gameplay, but you know, it's also pretty fun, I would say. That's a nice looking view right there. Like the way that looks. Again, I'm a little critical of the color choices because, you know, when you get some a little bit more of a saturation like this, it looks great. And then when you kind of have this dead, desaturated look, it's just kind of unsatisfying. This to me just looks like a very, very large and flat surface that does not feel totally normal to me. And we're getting another kind of, just feels a little bit of an artificial transition there in terms of the materials. See, this is how I wish the entire map looked. I desperately, desperately wish the entire map looked like this, because I think that would be pretty breathtaking and give you a lot of potential. It would make the rest of the level just feel very natural, I feel. And yeah. So we just have this contrast, I would say, between an environment that I'm pretty excited to be in and an environment that I understand that the intention is to evoke some different moods with this type of environment. But I guess I would like more consistency. You know, if we're gonna go for like a Badlands, like barbed wire fence and barrel fires, then you know, let's go all the way with that. And if we're gonna do like a beautiful red canyon with, you know, orange tones, let's do that. I don't really feel that the combination is as satisfying as I would like. Kind of an interesting idea to have an explicitly labeled smoke vent, but I think the problem with this idea basically is that I can't really see what I'm throwing my smoke at. So while I appreciate the label, I don't know that I would throw my smoke in there because I feel like I might potentially be wasting it. Yeah, every time I see this red rock, I really appreciate it. I love the way that fog looks coming down from the sky like that. And I kind of like traversing through this cargo container. It's a little hard for me to believe. I'm a little confused by it, but also I think it's pretty fun. And I like the way the lighting looks in this area. This is a very cool kind of scene. It's definitely helping me to appreciate the core basic premise of the hostage mode and what makes the hostage mode so interesting. Like the emotions that evokes. It's actually pretty rare for me to think about the hostage in like an emotional term. But there's something about this kind of clinical setting that is kind of bringing the hostage mode back to basics, I would say. Definitely helping me appreciate almost the emotional side of the game, which is pretty cool. It's like from Dexter or something. This looks like it could be in Dexter or Silence of the Lambs or something. It's very clinical. I really like that. I like this kind of plastic tarp. Ah, it's used everywhere. Yeah, I kind of dig that. I like the way the lighting looks there too. Yeah, definitely getting like Dexter vibes in this room, which is pretty interesting. Like the way this kind of. So I think some of the theme is starting to come through for me a little bit more of what the what this environment is actually supposed to be. It's kind of like a terrorist hideout, and they've got their basement set up here. It's very neat. I do like the theme. So they're kind of like preppers. Not sure why. I like that. I want to believe in danger zone. I like the skull there. Yeah, some really cool storytelling in this one, I would say. I really feel like it's almost making me feel like a single player experience because it just has this very kind of storytelling intentionality to the world, which I really like. So this is a pretty cool. I'm really drawn to this concept of like a jump here, and it's even elevated even beyond just a simple. I mean, first of all, let's just see what happens if I fall. Okay, I'm landing in the water, so it really is lowering the stakes on this. Uh, but I think that's okay because it's going to be really cool and interesting to make this jump in game. This feels like kind of a Half-Life type of environment because there's just a lot of fundamental movement elements here. You know, really kind of like strength in the basics and the essentials of first-person shooter movement mechanics. Those are still strong, we can really still appreciate those, so I like that a lot. This is a nice view. Again, I'm sad about the lack of color and kind of how drab it looks from a color standpoint versus what it could look like. this could be an incredibly striking environment with just a little bit more saturation and contrast. So I'm definitely going back to that fundamental movement idea. Definitely encouraged to explore this map from a movement standpoint. I feel really rewarded for, exploring the environment when I can do that. Some more movement stuff. Yeah, this area almost feels too red. I think part of it is this kind of skybox drabness and the fact that the ground, the path, is as saturated as the walls. But I do like this shrubbery and this brush. I wonder why this area is so wet. Okay, there we go. Interesting. Not really buying this water because it comes down and just kind of disappears into a couple rocks. And here's our rescue zone. I have to say, as a rescue zone, just from a storytelling standpoint, I don't know about this as a rescue zone because I feel like this is just taking us even further into danger. If that makes sense. I mean, we got a truck all the way back here. But I wouldn't say this feels like liberation. I do really like the shapes here, though. I love the way this rock is kind of twisting and turning like that. Looks really crazy. That looks insane. I mean, I guess these are all like photo scanned assets of some kind. They're freaking intense, man. Like, especially when you look up here. Photo scan stuff is pretty cool. Definitely opens up, in this kind of environment, in this kind of natural setting, you can't beat this kind of a look. That is crazy. Ah, I saw a little rat. Am I hallucinating? Caution, high radiation levels. Yeah, this level definitely feels complex when you're exploring it. I think I'm starting to get the hang of it a little bit more. These levels go through quite an evolution sometimes. I think this effect is kind of obnoxious when you can get this close to it. See, that doesn't look very good at all. Yeah, this is a level that right now I definitely feel like it's off of its potential. But I actually really like the bones of what's here from a storytelling standpoint. I think the assets are here to do something really, really cool visually. I think the scope and grandeur of the level is there. I like the feeling of traversing the level. I like the way it feels to move throughout the level. I really like the three-dimensionality of the space and the way that, yeah, areas like this just kind of reward you for exploring them and kind of reward basic movement skills, which is so important, I think, in Counter-Strike, to have at least some maps that do that, because a lot of the maps in the game are honestly pretty dry from that standpoint. Even stuff like this feels like very satisfying to me. This is honestly the type of environment I could explore for a very long period of time from a gameplay standpoint, because yeah, it's kind of like moving around Zen or something in Half-Life. It has that kind of three-dimensionality to it. It has that kind of organic feeling to it. You know, you have areas like this where you can fail with your movement, and that just makes the level more interesting. You know, when you allow players to fail occasionally, not in an obnoxious way, but occasionally, it definitely increases the amount of interest in the environment. So I do think that banana looks pretty tasty. So I think even though I'm not seeing a visible way to escape from the bear trap, from the rock suspended in air, I think the proper way to conclude this video would be to see what happens when I step on this. Okay, that's exactly what should have happened. So successful test there. So Wild, definitely some positive things to say about this one, and definitely some room for improvement. But this is one that I think is worth continuing to improve and refine with time, because I think a few updates down the line, this could be something that's going to showcase the Source 2 engine very well from a visual standpoint. It's going to be something that has classic movement mechanics going all the way back to Half-Life, going all the way back to Quake. You know, those things are present in this level. And I think the theme and the concept are there. You know, I almost wish that this hostage was given the same kind of emotional weight as the one in the Dexter room. Maybe, I don't know how you would go about doing that. Maybe, you know, maybe like a video camera and a message behind the wall here, and he's in front of it, rather than a fire. I don't know, just something to match the emotional weight of this guy in here, who really feels like he is totally screwed without our help. So yeah, I actually think I want to leave it off on this Dexter room, which has made me rethink the hostage game mode from a storytelling standpoint for the first time, and I can't even remember how long. So that's pretty cool when a map can do that.